All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for letting me be able to do this, come into your classroom and see what you have to offer. And I've heard a lot of good things. I've seen you before, and I'm looking forward to this next lesson. So why don't you kind of walk me through what the lesson's going to be about, and how you're going to structure this, and just what I can expect, I guess.
All right, so what I'm doing here is I've discovered this online kind of an interactive presentation called Nearpod. And what you can do with Nearpod is you create a presentation, some type of a lecture aid for you using multimedia. I use pictures a lot in mine, and just using words that the students will be able to try to remember and tie with those pictures. And then along with that, you get to create these different types of questions. They can be open-ended questions to introduce a lesson, or to try to see which students are really getting it, which students are struggling. And then at the end, I like to use a little quiz where I introduce some of the information that they're going to see on the test, not specifically in that question form, but in a way that I can at least introduce the information that they're going to be required to give back to me on a test. So with Nearpod, it's perfect for formative assessment because we're expected to use formative assessment this year as one of our goals as teacher here at the high school is to try to use formative assessment as much as possible. So this is a perfect tool for us to use that, and I want to look at test scores, see how that comes out.
Okay, I'm excited about seeing that one. So you expect, I guess, the formative assessments that are throughout the program to do what exactly?
Well, it helps me because rather than me asking a blanket question and hoping that somebody volunteers an answer, and ultimately you know the deal because you teach as well, who's going to give the answer? The person that knows it. So that's not helping me quite as much understand where the teaching either needs to be manipulated to cater to the whole crowd, or to maybe help the students that are struggling. So what it'll do is Nearpod gives me feedback automatically, and I can see which students are getting which questions correctly. And when they guess, I can ask them. I can come around individually and ask, why did you answer it this way? What was it about what you saw that caused you to answer this way? And then I can make adjustments on the fly as I go. So feeling like rather than waiting until we take the test to see what students are missing is going to allow me the opportunity to really improve their ability to do well on those tests.
So, this approach you said is about formative assessment, and you're trying to, gather information throughout the presentation instead of at the end, and I like that. That sounds great. I can't wait to see it happen. So, so just through the lesson, is there a before, during, and after, or what are we going to see there?
Well, in the Nearpods that I create, I like to start with an open-ended question every time to introduce the lesson. For example, in the one that we're going to see, I've got the Nearpod pulled up here. I'm asking them to describe the characteristics that made Franklin Delano Roosevelt popular with Americans in the early 1930s, and we're going to be talking about the first New Deal. So that's one of the first things that they're going to see in the book as well, which is what we're going along using kind of the book to guide us to the end. And once I can see who can give me that answer. I can see who read ahead like they were supposed to. I can see, who's really into the program and who I need to focus on more, as far as who's not paying attention to what's going on, or who's having trouble looking through the book and finding the information that they're going to be expected to know by the end of the lesson. So the before part would be the open-ended question, and that's I tell students, if you don't know, give me your best guess for the most part, and I'll get anything from a long sentence, or I'll get just a brief, probably be a brief phrase about Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
How are they providing you with this?
The Nearpod, you can use a laptop, or you can use a phone, or you can use an iPad. We're not one-to-one here at the school, so I have to allow them to use their smartphones in order to do that. And basically, it's just the Nearpod is all on their phone. They're looking at the presentation. I don't have to use any type of software to put it up on the screen. everybody that has their phone, and I control the pace of the slides. When I move a slide forward, their slide moves forward, and then when I pull the question up, it gives them the option to type something in. So they'll type whatever they type in, and it'll send it to me, and then I'll use those questions or those responses to questions to kind of gear them to the direction of what the correct answer would be to that.
All right. And then the during is definitely the presentation. You already said the after would be your quiz.
Yeah, I do about a 5-question quiz to try to hit the highlights of what this, and I do it per lesson. I'm just going to go through the whole chapter, row by row. What I do is I'll do an opportunity for them to read ahead and give me some sort of an outline of what they read on paper, and then we discuss the things together at the end of the lesson, and then we'll move on to the next lesson. So I create the Nearpod as a chapter, but we go lesson by lesson, and there's a quiz at the end of each lesson to see what they got out of the lesson, if they're getting what they need to get out of the lesson as far as the questions. Like I said, the information that they can give back to me as to what they're going to be responsible for on the summative assessment at the end.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it, man.
All right, I hope it works.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. Thank you.